Hello, this is Mrs. Cogswell, and I'm going to walk you through some very basic skills that you need to feel very comfortable doing on your graphing calculator. So, here's obviously a CX. Now, the CAS, there's some extra features that it does, but we don't need those in this class. So, if you just have a CX calculator, that is perfectly fine. If you have the version number 2 here, or just the regular CX, that's perfectly fine too, any of these calculators. Your calc survey does not get to use a CAS calculator. So if you have one of those, let me know. All right, so this is our home screen. And whenever you turn on your calculator, I always immediately go to the scratch pad. So under the escape button, you just press the scratch pad button. It'll be a pop-up screen that will take you to either a calculator screen, or if you press it again, it takes you to the graphing calculator. So it takes you back and forth. So it's nice and convenient, and that's primarily what we'll be using in here. So starting on the calculator, if you were to type in a fraction like 1/2 and press enter, I get a lot of students that get frustrated because they might want the decimal answer, or if you do 2/4, it'll give you the reduced fraction. So in order to get the decimal approximation, there's two ways. You can, now a really nice tool is if you arrow up and press enter, it'll pull that back down, and that can save you some time, especially if it's a big long number or expression. Now if you put a decimal anywhere in that fraction, as long as it doesn't change the value, of course, and press enter, there's your decimal. Or if before you go to press enter, press the control button, so control enter will also give you the decimal. Okay. Now, if you type in something like 1,423 divided by 13, and I'm going to put a decimal here so I get a decimal answer, and press enter, there it tells you the approximation answer here. Now, let's say I asked you to round maybe to the 10th decimal place, if that's possible on here. Something to keep in mind, if you arrow up and pull this down, it will show you more decimal places. Now this should be plenty right here, and on that note, if you're not seeing very many, let's say you type this in and you only see 0.46, if you go back to the home screen and go to settings, so press 5, document settings, make sure you're floating at least 10. All right, if you're floating only 6, it's only going to give you 6 places. So try to make sure you're floating at least 10. All right, so I'm on the home screen. I'm going to go back to Scratchpad, and there's where I was working from. Okay, so let's go to the graphing calculator. Let's type in two functions. So I thought we could do e to the 3x squared, something interesting. And then now to type in another function, you'll press the tab button. And then I thought we could do the cubed root of x minus 2 plus 6. It's two random functions here. All right, so graphing our two functions. Now you might say the window's not the best. So if you go to menu is your best friend. This will, if you don't know how to do something, problem solve. And menu is the first place you're going to look. Right? I forget how to do things, so I go exploring in the menu. So if you press menu, and we'll go to window settings, and of course you could zoom in or zoom out, zoom standard. You can play around with these, but window settings will allow me to tell you exactly what I want to see. So -10 to 10, and maybe let's go a little bit higher on the Y. Maybe we'll go up to 15. I'm just experimenting. Now this calculator has an awesome feature with this auto scale. On the old calculators, you used to have to tell it the scale. But say OK, and that just gives us a little bit better window. If you want to move these functions, you have to use that, see that open hand? If you hold down the middle button, the enter button, and that'll clamp that hand shut, and then you can move these out of the way. Get those out of the way. All right, so I want to know what that intersection point is right there. So we'll go menu, and just go exploring. Probably analyze graph, and then, oh, what do you know? There's the intersection. So click that intersection, you get this annoying dotted line, I think. It's hard to use this touchpad sometimes to move that a dotted line, but it's doable. So click to the left of your intersection point, and when I say click, you're pressing that middle enter button right here. So click to the left, click to the right, and there's our intersection point. Now let's say your test or quiz says round 4 decimal places, and you look at this and say, uh-oh, what do I do? It didn't give me enough. All right, well, there's a solution. You scroll over, again, that open hand. So get that open hand there. And then you're going to actually press the plus button. And if you press that plus button, see how it's giving you more decimal places? And you can do the same thing here. But again, you have to press that plus button. But that's how you get more decimal places. All right. Let's see here. And then again, just if you want to know how to do something, just go to the menu, start exploring, see what it's capable of doing. You can split the screen and see table values with the functions, and you can arrow over to see the other function. I mean, you just play around with this. You need to play around and see what it's capable of doing. All right. Now, if you want to get rid of the table, you can remove it. Okay, now one other thing I want to show you with the graphs. If you go back to the calculator part, and I'm going to get rid of this. Let's clear this out. Here we'll do Control Delete. They'll clear that space. So let's say I want to plug a number into one of those functions. Well, realize that these functions, if I press Tab, notice they've been, if you arrow up, you can see they've been stored as f sub 1 and f sub 2. So if you're in the calculator part, there's a really nice button, this var, V-A-R, vars button. If you press that, it'll say, okay, which function do you want? We'll use f of 1, and I can plug in any number I want as long as it's in the domain of the function, of course. So maybe 4. If I plug 4 into that first function, I get the y value, e to the 48th power. Now, if you wanted that decimal, it's going to be a big one. We'll see if it does it. So I'm going to pull this down, put a decimal place, or press Control Enter, and there it is. Okay, but that vars feature is very convenient if you have your functions typed in and labeled. All right, saves you a little bit of time. Okay, then let's see here. So one other thing I wanted to cover with this video is how to create a table and how to plot data. So I'm going to go back to the home screen. Now, I like to work in the scratch pad, but in order to plot data, you will have to be in the documents. So we're going to have to open up a new document. So let's do that. So to open up a new document, you just press the home button again. Yeah. So press the home button, and I'm going to do Control Doc. And I'm going to pick lists and spreadsheets. Okay. So, and now I need to label. So I'm going to do X in this first one, and then we'll do Y over here. And of course you could label these whatever they are. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. And then over in the Y column, we'll do, I had 56, I'm just picking random numbers, 49, 37, and 22. Now, something really important. If you do not enter out of that box, it's not going to read that last bit of data. So make sure you enter out so that it looks like this. All right, so everything is entered in. Now I'm going to do Control Doc. See this little plus page right here? So Control Doc will give us another page. And we did lists and spreadsheets to type the data in. Now I want to do data and statistics to see it. So data and statistics. Then you're going to scroll over here and you're going to pick which variable you want to be along your Y. And we're going to do Y, of course. And then I'm going to scroll over here and make this our X. That's our independent. And there's my function or my data plotted. And you can see it's a decreasing concave down curve here. Okay? All right. So there's another way to start a new document. I'm just not remembering it off the top of my head right now, but there is another way to open a new document. Okay, so those are the basic skills for now. Something I want to mention. So I'm going to go back to the scratch pad. This button under delete, this one right here, kind of looks like a piecewise function. That has a lot of useful operations in it that you might need. Like here's your absolute value. You're going to learn how to do some of these things: derivative, integrals, matrices. I mean, it's got some. There's your log, and so that this button is a good one to keep in mind if you want to figure out how to do something. The only button I haven't been able to figure out are those greatest integer functions that you actually have to type in int, but I don't think that happens in this course very often. So, okay, and then one other thing I want to make sure you know how to do is how do you clear the scratch pad. If you want to start with a nice clean slate, then you just simply press Doc and then B. Doc and then literally the letter B will clear out the scratch pad. Then you have a nice clean slate to start with. And then in terms of documents, oh, I just remembered. You actually just press the number 1 to open up a new document. There we go. Sorry about that. So if you press 1, and it's right there, new, duh. If you press 1, it'll say, do you want to save what you've previously done? And we just simply say no. That'll start off all fresh and new. And then you could start with another list and spreadsheets and so forth. Okay? And the escape button is always a good, if you want to get out of where you're looking, that's always a good one to keep in mind too. Or reverse, there's your reverse button. So you need to play around with these calculators, but those are the skills that I think you need to be very comfortable using and relying on when you're doing your math. So, okay, email me if you have any questions. Thanks.